Just two simple words can sometimes change the way she responds to you, not by manipulation, but by shifting the energy of the conversation. This is where basic attraction psychology becomes noticeable. If you've ever felt like things were going well and suddenly the vibe cooled down, it's important to understand this. It's not always about saying the wrong thing. Often, it's about the pressure behind how you're saying things. People pick up subtle signals very fast. Your tone, your pauses, and your facial expression often communicate more than the actual words. That's why trying too hard or over-explaining can sometimes create distance instead of closeness. A common pattern many men fall into is overreacting in conversation. They either agree too quickly just to keep things smooth, or they start filling every gap with extra words. Both can reduce natural flow. A more balanced approach is to stay calm, listen properly, and respond without rushing. You don't need to perform. You just need to be present. That's where a simple word like interesting works. Not as a trick, but as a natural pause that shows you're actually paying attention. For example, when she says something unexpected or shares an opinion, instead of reacting instantly or trying to impress, you pause briefly and respond with calm curiosity. Interesting. What makes you think that? It subtly changes the direction of the conversation. You're no longer chasing approval. You're just engaging naturally. And that small shift is often what changes the overall feeling of the interaction. Why is this powerful? Because it creates three subconscious impressions at the same time. First, it shows you're not emotionally shaken by her opinion or reaction. You stay steady instead of reacting impulsively. Second, it signals inner stability. You're not trying to adjust yourself just to match her. You can hold your own perspective without tension. Third, it reflects real presence. You're actually listening, not planning your next line or trying to impress. Studies in social psychology suggest that curiosity and attentive listening increase emotional bonding. When someone feels genuinely heard, not evaluated or chased, the brain can release feel-good chemicals linked with trust and comfort. That's why a man who is simply interested without forcing charm or approval-seeking often feels more grounded and memorable. Most people focus on trying to appear impressive, but the more natural pull often comes from being genuinely engaged instead of performing. Now, the second word shifts the dynamic in a different way. That word is no, not aggressive, not emotional, just calm and clear. Think about moments where someone agrees to everything just to avoid tension. It might seem polite, but over time it creates imbalance. It sends the message that they adjust too easily, even when they don't want to. When a man can say no without over-explaining or softening it into something unclear, it shows something important. He isn't dependent on approval to feel secure. That's what psychologists often refer to as grounded assertiveness, staying firm without becoming reactive or defensive. Together, these two responses, curious engagement and calm refusal, create a very different presence. One shows openness, the other shows stability. And that combination is what makes interaction feel balanced rather than one-sided. I once worked with a client named Marcus. He wasn't rich, and he didn't rely on looks or physique, but there was something steady about him. He carried himself with quiet confidence. A younger colleague once asked him why women seemed naturally drawn to him. Marcus just laughed and said he stopped trying to impress people and started actually listening. One example he shared was from a woman he was seeing. She once invited him on a last-minute weekend trip and expected him to drop everything immediately. Marcus didn't overthink it. He calmly said, "I can't this weekend. I've already made plans. We can do something next week instead." She tested it a bit, tried to push the idea, but he stayed relaxed and repeated the same thing without emotion. "This weekend won't work for me." Instead of creating tension, the moment actually changed the way she looked at him. Less assumption, more respect. Chapter 5. Body language that strengthens attraction. A man who can hold his position without becoming defensive is often perceived as more grounded and reliable. These two words, interesting and no, are not techniques. They reflect two internal states. Interesting shows you're open enough to listen without immediately reacting or judging. No shows you're stable enough to hold boundaries without guilt or over-explaining. Together, they create something people naturally respond to: consistency. You don't need to wait to build this kind of presence. It starts in small, everyday moments. Next time you're in conversation, don't rush to fill silence. Listen properly before responding. And when something doesn't feel right for you, don't say yes out of pressure. You don't need long explanations. A simple, calm refusal is often enough. Boundaries aren't walls, they're signals of self-respect. If this shifts how you think about communication, notice which one feels harder for you right now. Staying curious or holding a firm no.